doll friends. This is Michael Canadas with the Grovian Doll Museum and Carmel Doll Shop. Next in our American Masters series, we have a company that should be well known to just about anybody who's been interested in dolls for the last 100 years, which is the Madame Alexander Company. We've asked our good friend Belle Ann Curry to share with us her knowledge of a particular slice of this company's production, and really one of my favorites, which is Madame Alexander's Sissy doll.
Yes, Sissy. So let me start right off the bat. Thank you for inviting me back. If anyone has not been to the Grovian Doll Museum, it is a fabulous, fabulous place to visit, and I so appreciate being here again.
Thank you. But you go the gamut, because you really caused a sensation with Trolls. And this is kind of like the...
This is not Trolls.
No.
You know, Trolls were fun and Trolls were my heart, but this is something when you see one and you see a Sissy and everything is right, it takes my breath away. It's such a spectacular doll, an example of mid-century modern and Madame Alexander innovation in these dolls. I think I'm not going to say the first high-heeled doll, but one of the earliest manufactured
in the
mid-centuries, in the 50s, in the United States, a real innovation. So I'll just this is an overview. I am not by any means a tremendous expert. I do know some people that are experts on these dolls, but it comes from, again, a place of just love and awe at all of the tremendous things that Madame Alexander did with these dolls in the mid-century, and these were play dolls. So I want to start first and give a huge and big thank you to Kylie Rue Shaw. She's written books on Sissy. This is the second edition. She wrote books on Elise, and I understand there might be other books in the works. And she has been very kind and very generous and given her blessing. And these books are off the market. However, they can always be found on the secondary market. And if anyone has interest, oh my gosh.
This is an important resource to have.
Very important resource talking about the doll, the history, the costumes, what's more common, what's rare, what's almost impossible to find, and they're out there. So we'll start with the concept of the high-heeled doll. The concept began, I believe, at about 1953, and I don't want anyone, come on, sweetheart, I don't want anyone to be afraid when you find a Sissy like this, because a great spa day with a good, excellent restorationist and specialist is going to make her gorgeous one more time. But this is a typical, what you would find if you were going to an estate sale or a garage sale, whatever.
And these were played with. So
these were toys, and these were played with, and little girls really had a big kick out of it. But we see with this doll the innovation. This doll started out in the early 1950s as a Benny or Winnie doll, and it was a child doll. And they kind of modified the head, little eyeshadow, and they made her, this was the head for Sissy. Now, they don't know exactly the origin of the creator of this particular doll, so I'll just kind of
You mean the head sculpt?
That's right, who did the head sculpt on it. But it was just, it was just done beautifully and done right. But what we see is we see the high-heeled feet, we see the bent knees.
And what age do we think they were depicting her
I
to
would
be?
say that she was 18 to 20.
Right, because she
was a developed, and this was quite the thing to have a bosom and to create costumes and dresses for a young woman. You know, you would turn on TV, you would see I Love Lucy, and Lucille Ball came out in the most gorgeous outfits and dresses. And we see examples of these on some of the dolls, but you see the small waist and you see the vinyl. Now, some people argue that the arms were too beefy, but it really fit the doll, and you could also put gloves on her, put rings on her. And it was just a tremendous play doll.
In the 50s, a small size would have been a size 12. So
That's
they
right.
were not, they were a little more curvaceous then.
Yes, these dolls were pretty, you know, it was just a real innovation. And from this, you get Revlon, and you get American Character, and you get a whole plethora of knockoff dolls that came into the 50s after Sissy came on the market, then it exploded. So, but this was the premiere. When you would go to the finest stores, Macy's, Nordstrom's back then, FAO Schwartz at Christmas, and these were the dolls that you would see.
And we would people here would have to go to San Francisco to go to the very fine stores.
Very posh. And these were expensive for their time. I noticed,
didn't we have one doll that had a price tag on it? Wasn't it $20?
Yes.
That was a lot of money.
That was a whole lot of money back then. But this was a premiere. I mean, I know these were made in Harlem and just done up beautifully. So I'm going to show you, first of all, one of the things I want to teach you guys is this is a gorgeous, beautiful example belonging to the Grovian of an earlier Sissy, mid-1950s in the shirt waist dress. And look at the beautiful, she's not been played with. So you want to see the coloring, the hat, the crispness of the outfit. We have blushing on her hands. Just everything is right about this doll. But what I want to do is show you, because people say, well, what's the difference between the painted doll and the infused plastic? Well, this painted doll had more steps to it to give it that wonderful luminous look.
Well, you know, Belle-Ann, I didn't know this till you pointed this out, so I'm delighted that you're here. So let's see the comparison.
What we're going to do, so people that say, well, do I have a painted doll? So this one here was a little bit later when they started making what they call the infused plastic.
So the color is in the plastic?
Correct. Instead of painted on.
So is the cheek color in the plastic then?
No, they blushed them.
They blushed
They put that blush on there.
But the base color.
Right, your base color of the doll.
And then this one is the painted.
That's correct.
So
I want to show people.
Is it then if they were painted, they most likely could have some damage to the paint?
Well, that's the thing that we see when we see a little doll. She at one time was probably pretty close in look
and so
to this Sissy, but a good spa day, there's people online I know and people on Facebook that can bring them back to life.
Because I know that they're wonderful stylists that can do the hair.
Yes.
So she's got a good amount of hair.
Yes. She's got great hair. Also in Kylie's book is, we can put her back, wonderful information on restoration of these dolls, which can be, let me see if we can, there we go, which is great to have. So I always tell people, repair at your own risk, but there's great ideas. So I guess we can just start from the beginning here.
Okay.
I'm just going to show you, this is a taste of Madame Alexander's outfits. There were loads and loads. I know one lady has 200 sissies, you know.
And are they all individual?
Yes.
So they're not repeats?
That's right. So
wow.
Everything was different. You could buy clothing on the doll. You could buy clothing separately. And of course now when someone says, I have an all original sissy, you always have to look because eBay has caused us to buy this dress and that doll, and you know, like this doll, I don't believe this doll originally had this dress. she's like a basic doll or a different doll, but it goes together beautifully.
Well, could the dress have been bought separately?
Absolutely, absolutely. But originally, some dresses were only sold on the doll. So we could start, this is the black torso. The cigarette is not original, but
oh, come on, that's original.
We all really loved it because back in the 50s it was just glamorous.
Of course, she could light that tool on fire.
That's right. Black torso, 1956. It was sold on the doll. This is not the correct doll for that particular dress. Madame Alexander claimed that this dress was the most difficult to design. Now, I have to be honest. These are replacement roses. It was how I happened to buy her, and I've not changed them out because hey, it looks good.
It looks pretty.
It looks very, very, very pretty. So we have all kinds of really nice, beautiful dress.
And I noticed that we can see right out of the back we have the tag.
Yes.
So should we expect Sissy clothes to be tagged?
Most were.
Okay.
Every once in a while, you will find a dress that does not have a tag. Okay. But most everything, it was either tagged on the dress. Sometimes you would find a tag on the slip, and there's always in the book the correct dress, the correct slip. Did it have earrings?
So go by the dress more than the
correct.
tag.
Yes. But like I say, there have been some real treasures found out there that were not tagged, but are Madame Alexander. And again, I guess one says the devil is in the detail, to look at the real work that came onto this doll.
Fabulous.
And you told me that this was...
Well, I mean, it's kind of... It
was such interesting information.
It's based on Dior work, yet
yes.
I think it's also based on... Charles James. The top is very Charles James, and the bottom to me is very Dior.
Yeah.
Madame Alexander, I'm sure, was keeping up with the latest fashions.
Well, she was right
of the
there
time.
in the middle of New York.
So what I think is interesting is you have all these fabulous prints.
Aren't those gorgeous?
I mean, they're just so quintessential 50s.
That's right. Well, these are the Camilla, what they call the Camilla dresses, or I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But these were the beautiful dresses with these lovely flowers on them. Some came with the dolls, some did not. This particular one is another one, the dark blue. This came on a doll.
Okay, so that would come with the doll.
That's right. This one came on the doll. However, many of the dresses, so the little girl could go in for Christmas, and she could get the doll, and then she could come in at Easter or Passover, and she could get an extra dress and an outfit, and she could really get something lovely. And of course then, Madame Alexander sold at FAO Schwarz all kinds of trunk sets. So you would get the doll, and you would get 3 or 4 outfits, and you would get a nightgown, a negligee.
And I can see we've got a hat box here.
Yeah, the quintessential Madame Alexander hat boxes. Sometimes they held shoes.
Way before Barbie.
Yes, but this was right before Barbie popped on the market.
And I love, since we're talking 50s, we've got these little nylon gloves.
Yes, matching
which were
gloves.
Such a 50s.
Yes.
Now, the one thing I have as a doll costumer myself, I'm interested, do you know how wide the skirts are, how much material goes into?
Off of the top of my head, I do not, but it is quite
It has to be, it looks to me at least 40 inches.
Because it has to have all of that wonderful flounce to it. And everything, they're inside the shirts.
And it looks to me that they've got nice big thick hems.
Yes, nice big thick hems, which I think is kind of interesting. It's not like the doll's going to grow.
Right, but no, it gives body. Now this is a beautiful print here, and
the
this
wallpaper
is a beautiful
dress.
doll.
That's right. I love the wallpaper dress. 1956. It was sold on the doll. And again, do not look too closely at, say, the hairdo that I've got on the doll and the dress, because I bought this dress separately.
Right.
At a
and wouldn't
doll
this
show.
hairdo be more for an evening gown?
Yes, that was more of an evening gown type of doll. Also, sometimes the basic sissy. They did sell a basic sissy that just came in a nice corset. and undergarment and heels. We don't want to.
And I can see that your dolls wear diamonds during the day.
They do. Some of them wear diamonds during the day. So yeah. I have a tendency to run a little bit, how we say, avant-garde.
Yes. So Belle-Anne, for
dolls.
you,
yes,
is it more, when you're collecting these, are you collecting it now for the doll or for the style, the fashion?
Yes.
Or is it both?
I say both, because, and a lot of people too, there are many collectors out there that they spend their entire collecting time, this is not the right pair of shoes that go with this dress, this had black shoes, and I applaud them. But I have a little bit more, you want
to have fun with it.
Liberty, and that's how I collect. So this doll actually did come in this particular outfit, and look at the wonderful curls on her dark hair. She has beautiful, beautiful coloring, and her dress, it has kind of a nice, like a shiny finish to that cotton, which I love.
So is this a cotton, or is this, it is a cotton.
That is cotton.
I thought at first it was a synthetic.
Well, she used the finest quality. I mean, this was the doll. This was the one. These were the ones.
And her shoes are wonderful.
Aren't those wonderful? They might be Premiere, but all of these terrific shoes. So you could go and you could buy shoes that were not made exactly by the Alexander Company, but were made for these dolls, and that's a whole nother subtext.
Sure.
Is different companies in the 50s and different people in different cottage industries that made knockoff Madame Alexander sissy clothes for the doll, because
not everybody got to have.
That's right.
Factory-made clothes.
That's right. That's right. It was all. She became all the rage, so everybody had
her.
So
this girl here looks to me like she stepped right out of a Yardley.
Oh, isn't she? Well, you know what's funny? This is also the first time that Madame Alexander worked with Yardley, and that they made these beautiful advertisements, which brought Sissy more into the line of sophistication. You know, you didn't have
art
the
doll.
Baby dolls, that's right, like an art doll. And the dolls that were used in these advertisements and the Yardley advertisements were not manufactured. The clothing was not manufactured. The clothing was made specifically for the Yardley commercials. Some people, some Sissy collectors only buy, they buy those different advertisements and put them up because they're really neat.
They're elegant.
Very
and I think
elegant.
we should tell our audience that may not know what Yardley is, but it was
English.
It's an English
yes.
perfumes.
That's right. They made colognes and perfumes
and special soaps. Yes.
Yes, very special.
Very lovely.
Very, very lovely.
Imported.
So it was back in the mid 1950s, and it was a wonderful combination and correlation.
And she's beautiful.
Thank you very much. This is 1958. Purple organdy, so it came in purple and pink.
Okay.
I happen to have the pink one.
And is this original handbag?
That is a little. I don't believe it's not original to this doll.
Perfect.
I know, it's so perfect for her.
And I love that you play like that to add.
See, and I replaced her earrings, but this is the original hat and the original dress.
And her Madame Alexander's flowers were outstanding.
Weren't they outstanding?
Yeah, they really were. And her millinery too.
So if you can see right when you come down this way at the end, some of the beautiful original flowers that came with these dolls.
And this one.
And again, this is one of the examples you really want to look for. And there was something even when you.
The color is so gorgeous.
The coloring on this particular doll is so gorgeous, and when you look into the side of the doll's eye, even there's such a luminescence that comes out about them. And this is, no one's messed with her
almost
hair.
Like paperweights.
Yes, yes. And this is a more unusual example of the Camilla dress because it's not a Camilla. I'm not exactly sure what these flowers are, but it was a little
roses more, and
like a kind of a cabbage rose or a vine rose. This is an original purse.
Oh, fun.
that goes with these dolls. This is an original tag. Which we like to look out for when we're looking at these dolls. They're just so neat.
So and of course the required pink gloves.
Yes.
Now this one I think is très chic.
Isn't she très chic? This one is a hard to find dress, and Kylie's book, God bless her, she will tell you when something's a little more common, and then when something's a little more hard to find. We should have.
But isn't, when we start talking about common,
yes,
shouldn't condition come into play?
Condition is number one.
In just about anything?
And condition is going to be number one with these dolls, but I'm telling people, don't be afraid, and I've seen them over and over on the internet and on eBay and on different websites, that you can take one of the dolls that are a little bit on the drab side, and you can do lots and lots of things. They can be curated, and they could be made a lot beautiful.
Well, you know, Belle-Ann, when we started in our business, these dolls were only about 30 years old.
I'll be darned.
And so add 30 plus 35. So when we saw these, I didn't even think that they were that old, but time goes by.
Time is, yeah, tell me about it.
But now they're, mid-century icons.
They're mid-century icons, and truly icons of an era. This is how women dressed. I mean, when we see that show, I hope people have been watching or did watch the Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was several episodes in which in New York City they're going to tea and they're wearing this.
Oh yeah.
I was jumping out of my seat and jumping up off the couch and saying, look at that, look at the costuming, because they caught it. Women looked like flowers.
They did. Mm-hmm.
They were beautiful. It was beautiful.
And this is a very interesting print, but I think that with the rhinestones in it.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of.
Yes, that's a wonderful signature. Isn't that cool? It kind of makes everything pop.
And then the classic 50s pearls.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And this one, you've got a few redheads, or
I do.
Or do they call this Tosca?
Well, I think actually they did call it Tosca, but this is, and then there's a little bit of shade differences. This one is a little redder than this one that has a spanner bar. You can find on the internet, people reproduce and sell these spanner bars, which if you didn't have the spanner bars, you couldn't hold that up. So when little girls played with this, they did have to be careful, because this wasn't, you find these dolls all the time where the hair is just gotten crazy because the little girls wanted to comb it. But I think because of the love of this,
there's an industry to make her right, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, because we've got a few that need some spa days.
They need some spa days.
In Beverly Hills. Quick. Shall we go look at this? We did these.
Yes. And the wallpaper dress, and we did the red dress.
I love that print.
I know, I love that print. I love that
print. You told me while we were setting it up that this one, she likes Ike. And,
yes, isn't she cute?
But you told me it was a common dress, but that's actually not a common.
No, this one is not terribly common.
Okay.
So let me see here. It's the 1957 Librarian. Oh. It was a boxed extra.
So she's a librarian, but she's
a librarian.
She's putting her politics out there, isn't there? She likes Ike.
Well, I think it was in November when she when she wore that dress. So and these are not original shoes to this particular outfit. But
I like it.
I think that she can't have the open toe in the office. No. She has to.
But this is it's very classic.
Yes. And a beautiful face. She has a wonderful face.
And then here's one of your few blondes.
Yes.
So I think she's fabulous.
So she started out life with me. I got her at auction, and she had on a wedding dress that unfortunately was crumbling. I held the tool and it crumbled in my hands and fell completely apart. So I sold it to someone for a pattern.
Sure, which is lovely to do.
That's right. And she is also, this doll is a little different now. She's toward end of production. She's what I call, or what they lovingly call, the no neck example. I don't know if we can see, if you can See, and actually for a no neck, she's very nice. So a lot of times
she's just got a short neck.
She's got a little bit, well, I think that there's different theories about what caused that, but she's actually pretty good. And there's also ways that you can repair that. You get some of them that really truly look like they have no neck. She actually is pretty good. But we see that her arms now are one piece. We don't have the two-piece beefier arms. We've got the thinner arms, which we're going to begin to see.
Which was a cheaper thing probably for them to do. But the hair, Bellarmine, is just out of this world.
Isn't that
Is that
gorgeous?
the original set?
I believe, yes, it is.
Yeah, that's
yes,
fantastic.
it is. That's what. But look at it. Isn't that amazing what she did and how she did that?
Yes.
So she's wearing the diamond quilt pattern dress. It was a boxed extra.
Okay, so then you did the right thing.
So yeah, we did the right thing. Oh,
yeah.
We have to put her. This is not original to the doll. This, in fact, is not Madame Alexander. This is a creation. Isn't that fun?
Isn't it so I Love Lucy?
It's to me, very I Love Lucy. So I always tell people, keep your eyes peeled for antique, millinery things, hats, etc. that you can find.
It's a great scale.
And you can do great scale. That's right. And she's wearing a real nice, harder to find.
Now this is a beautiful. Is she an infused or is she a painted?
She is an infused doll.
But it looks hand painted.
And isn't that beautiful? She's beautiful. Now she too was a bride.
Okay.
But I've never been a big bride fan. But so she has her bridal dress at home, but she has on the nice checkered pink.
Darling.
Yeah, confectionery.
Well, we've got some ladies over here I want to look at too, which are some beautiful prints. Sorry, people, we have to.
That's right. We've got the wreath dress and the polka dot dress.
Okay, shall we do the polka dot first?
Yes, and I want to show you something. I had a lady, I've not been given permission to hand out names, but this lady is absolutely outstanding at her repair on these dolls, and you can find people that will do it. But this doll has been refreshed and has had a spa day. She came to me with yellow cheeks and she just needed some help. And she was brought back.
I think that's fantastic.
And it does not, unlike many antiques, a lot of times if you have a show on hut or another, and if the thing has been completely repainted, it doesn't have near the value as one that you would find that is mint and perfect. But Sissy's a little bit of a different story in that she can be restored and still retain value, which I think is really neat to have.
Well, because it looks great in the shelf, and
And had I not discussed this with you, that she was redone, no one would know.
They wouldn't.
No, because it's completely bringing it back.
And I love this. My mother had a watch just like that.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't that fabulous?
Yes. And again, this particular watch is not a Madame Alexander watch.
But it's from the 50s.
It's absolutely from the 50s. They used to sell them in gumball machines.
Yeah.
But we're not going to discuss that.
Well, that's all right.
So,
and then this one with this yellow print.
Yes, she has the wreath dress. And that was 1957, the year Miss Belle-Anne was born. And that was also a boxed extra.
Okay.
So the little girl could come in the springtime and have can you imagine going into FAO Schwartz and being able to pick out
love it.
I would have gone crazy.
And we're going to measure the width of the skirts.
Yes.
Because I think that this was very a luxurious use of material.
Yes.
There was no skimping here.
And when we're talking about material, and we're talking about measuring, and we're talking about dresses, one of the things that I have been loving and adoring on, I guess I can say the word eBay and other sites, there are women and men who are sewing for these dolls.
Oh, they're doing beautiful things.
And they are making gorgeous costumes. So you'll see something kind of similar to this, but it's brand new that someone has made, and they just do an amazing, amazing job. They actually, Simplicity came out with patterns in the mid-50s for these dolls, and they used to sell them for these dolls and for the Revlon dolls, and they've reproduced these patterns, and have gorgeous things. So
and then,
that
of course, you've got the shoes. That's a
Yes.
whole other thing, isn't it?
That's a whole nother. There are men. There's a gentleman that his name escapes me at the moment, but he makes gorgeous hats and shoes for the dolls.
Okay.
Richard, originals by Richard.
Okay,
So,
we'll put.
I haven't been given permission to say
we'll
that.
put
but
it in the comments.
Yes.
I don't think he would have a problem with that.
No.
And then I think then we've got some glamour pusses over here.
Yes, we
that
surely do.
Should we start with in honor of the late Queen?
Oh my goodness,
with
she
Queen
is really
Elizabeth?
one of my. So the reason these are kind of stand out, because these are not really. You're going to look at these and say, these aren't sissies, but they're not imposters. This one was Madame Alexander had some leftover molds. This was the Sleeping Beauty mold that was sold, I believe, at Disneyland, and it came in 3 sizes. And they had leftover heads, and it lent itself. In fact, I think it looks more like Queen Elizabeth than the sissy. So she made the sissy, used sissy heads with this, and then she used this Sleeping Beauty head, which I think is gorgeous. So
and this looks very much like the dress that the Queen loaned her granddaughter just recently.
Oh,
the
my
shape of it
gosh,
for her.
yes.
Well, just recently it was
What is this? The Order of Bath.
Yeah.
I like saying that.
Isn't that fabulous?
It is just fabulous, and everything on this doll is original, including the very, very hard to find crown. Those usually have broken and are not easily found. So
I think this is a very nice portrait of
I love it. And I was a great admirer of Queen Elizabeth, and
well, it's sad
It's
to
the end
lose
of an
the
era.
last of the
yeah,
great giants of the greatest generation.
yes, she
And
was a great giant.
and then speaking of queens, we should look at American royalty.
Yes. So this is your sissy body. And then we saw the later arms. And this was, of course, Jacqueline
Mrs.
Kennedy. So the funny thing of the story was, and thank you, Bruce Armand, for initially reporting this and getting the information, Madame Alexander went ahead and started creating Jacqueline, and received a letter from the White House and from Pierre Salinger, who said, cease and desist immediately. You will not be making Jacqueline Kennedy dolls. You have not been given permission. Cut it out.
Except that here's the legally. They didn't have to get permission. She was a public figure.
Aha. I like that
Yeah.
story. That's a greater part of the story.
If she were deceased, that would be different. But she was a public.
This is fabulous information. You know, the thing I love about collecting dolls, you just keep learning and learning and learning. And that most certainly with her, that's the case. So Madame Alexander began creating the portraits, which had the Jacqueline face, but then you were going to start seeing it with blonde hair and antebellum costuming and different things. But it was originally...
Yeah, she wasn't going to rock the boat.
No, she wasn't. And it was, knowing your new information, it was very gracious
Yes.
of her to follow the protocol and cease and desist.
And then all of us of a certain age would
yes.
know who this is.
That's right. Here's your little hint right here.
Lamb chop.
So this of course is Sherry Lewis, and that was another doll. Let's see, we know she's a little bit later too, like very early 1961, 1960, that was by the Alexander Company with the sissy body and capitalizing on dear beloved Sherry Lewis.
And lamb chop.
And our lovely lamb chop. And I always, when I find things, when she passed away, August 31st of 1998, I always like to keep information with the doll so that we know exactly what happened and who she was. I mean, there's generations of children now who have not heard of her.
No.
And she was everything to
children's television.
children's television, and later PBS.
And here we have these synthetics.
Yes, and to talk about flowers.
And fabulous flowers, but these synthetic today is a cheap word.
Right.
But in the 50s and 60s, synthetics were very expensive.
Right.
So this
yes.
was a high quality fabric for them.
And look at all of the work and all up here when you see. Yes, all of the knife
And
pleats.
we're going to measure. We're going to measure this. And
let's do.
And just so we have.
Because I want to know too.
Yeah, we'll know what, this type of dress, what amount of fabric you should have, which would be different than, say, the Queen's dress.
Yes, very different.
Well, Belle-Ann, I think that since we have the technology,
yes, you do. I
we
see
have
it in
a
your
tape
hands.
measure.
Yes, you do.
We have measured the dress,
Yes.
and we've measured quite a few dresses.
Yes,
And
that
what
was
have
fun.
we determined?
We have determined that she is spared nothing in making these costumes, and that what was the measurement? Approximately
60 inches.
60 inches of material.
Now, as a costumer and someone who makes kits,
Yes.
what I can tell you is that the intelligence behind that is she was working with 60-inch fabric.
Yes.
There's one cut for the skirt. So that's saving labor of piecing things together.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a very fabulous 50s full. But
Yes.
here's for our people that don't collect Madame Alexandra dolls. I think that this workmanship is just amazing.
Yes, it is.
Look at the hemming. I mean, it's done by a machine hem, but it's a beautiful machine that's mimicking handwork. And then you have the beautiful tiny pleating, and then it's again finished. And then look at your opening, bound, beautiful. And then look at the fabulous crinoline, double ruffle. I mean, is this typical, isn't it?
Well, I'm not looking at one raw edge.
Yeah, isn't that?
Everything is completely finished. And it's this example is so crisp and wonderful. And even the beautiful lace at the bottom and
it's
the
beautiful
work.
quality.
And look at this. We've got the tulle on the bottom and the tulle on top, which makes for a fuller look for the doll.
And
for
then
the finished product.
Beautiful
Pinking.
Pinking.
It's gorgeous.
But this is a tiny pinking. I mean, this is not the normal thing that you would find. This is a
Right.
little slightly scalloped and very small. So it's beautiful, just a beautiful thing. And then we didn't talk about this, but the fabulous invention of nylons
Yes,
after
nylons.
World War II.
Just like Mama
Yeah.
would wear. And the blushing on the knees. Look at all this wonderful work.
And then we found then something a little bit that is thought-provoking. So this is one of the Grovian's study pieces because it's kind of a mess.
Doesn't have to be.
No, but then we have in mint condition. And then another thing we've determined is that most of the seaming on these skirts was on the side.
Yes.
And in this case, it's opening in the front, but there would be the back opening, but still the seam would be on the side, most of them. There's
Most of them.
One that's not. But then there's two girls that have the pieced skirts,
Yes.
although yours is not pieced. And my
But
theory,
this one is.
But my theory is this is probably using up fabric because you're cutting out these components and you're going to have a certain amount left, and we might as well
Use it.
But,
Waste not, want not.
but it's still the same measurement. So that must have been Madame
Standard.
Alexander's. And was
Yes.
she not the main designer for the dolls?
Yes,
at
I
this time?
believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So that must have been
She
what
really,
she
that was
wanted.
the beauty of what she did. She was so innovative. And for a woman to be in charge back then, the way that she ran that company, it was just astonishing.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
And a strong woman.
Well, Belle-Ann, thank you so much for sharing your mid-century masterpieces
Yes.
with all of us in World Doll Day. And I thank you very much. And
I'm
that
so
way people
honored.
can see the the other side of you. You're not just
I'm
trolls.
not just trolls. But I do like them.
Yeah. Bye-bye, doll friends.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.